So welcome everybody to another episode of the Brewmasters.Club cast. Here is what you have to look forward to in tonight's episode.
Ham.
Yoodly-hee-hoo. That's how I'm feeling. What happens if I launch a website called .org.beer.com?
Did you blow that directly into the microphone?
Yeah.
Oh, I meant to go the other way.
What? Holy wait, shit. Have we not talked about Oberon? Because
No.
I've been drinking Oberon since before this podcast was
We have not
twinkle
talked
in my
about
eye. Thanks for that.
Neutral feeling.
Yeah.
It's all taking place inside of a hot topic.
Nope, not at all.
Okay. All right.
It's literally just a hot topic.
Okay. That's fine. Why isn't that called the three-beard system?
Okay, there it goes. Okay, perfect. We agree that you should go on a rant for 5 minutes and disagree with your agreement. Is that what you're saying?
I thought it was a far cry from normalcy, to be honest with you.
I think that's the play on the entire franchise, but go ahead.
That was my
Clap.
I've been thinking about how I'll use that all day long, by the way.
Oh, good for you. It's been done in Macedons.
Can we start this over?
This is a restricted area. Is this a drill or something? Negative. This sector is clear. Fine by me. I hate drill.
You crazy mother.
Welcome to the official podcast of the Brewmasters Club, craft brews and geek news. Sit back, pour yourself a pint, and let's get into it. Now here's the founder of the Brewmasters Club and your host, Donnie Gallagher.
Welcome to another episode of the Brewmasters Club podcast. This is Craft Brews and Geek News. We are joined tonight by our, of course, esteemed guest here. First off, Mr. Ryan, how are you, sir?
Ooh, I'm feeling esteemed. Yes.
Yeah, you are esteemed. You're a steamy, get it?
I am steamy out here in the patio in Florida.
Yes. No, it's not French. Why do you keep going to the French?
I don't know. I thought I was trying to be Mario.
It's a me.
It's a me, esteem.
Right.
Was that more French? I got
weird.
Can we start this over?
No, we cannot.
Should I just fall off a cliff, die, and start at the beginning?
Yeah, if you want to. It's up to you. You got children in the mix now. Our second guest here is Mr. Lossman. Mr. Lossman, how are you today?
Yoodly-hee-hoo. That's how I'm feeling.
Good.
Exactly how I'm feeling.
Okay, well.
Great.
Well, welcome. And this is the 40th. Congratulations, everyone. 40th episode of the Brewmasters Club podcast, Craft Brews Geek News. This is going to be a action-packed show, and we do have a small sponsor, really more of a shout-out. We just want to give a props to the guys at SYNEK Systems for making this awesome product that I've been using quite often. We use for the Temple Terrace Craft Brew Fest is the SYNEK system, and it's basically a kegerator for your growler. It's just a fantastic little tool. Keeps it cold any temperature you want to. You put any kind of beer you want in it, and it's brewery fresh. And you have a little tap handle. It's really a fantastic device. It's beautiful looking. It's about the size of a Keurig, and it fits on your counter. Keeps your wife happy because you will keep your growlers out of the fridge and in a refrigerated unit, which is fantastic. The price of these bad boys are usually about $400, but if you're a fan of the Brewmasters Club, we actually have you can get your very own SYNEK for about 25% off, which is $100 at that point. Pretty good deal. So go to www.synek.beer and enter the promo code Brewmasters Club at checkout, and you'll get 25% off. That's $100. Pretty good deal. Ryan loves this thing, don't you?
I absolutely do. It's got so many uses for it, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can actually unplug it and take it to a tailgate. You literally throw it in the back of your trunk, right? It's a little fridge, so if you don't open the doors or anything, it will keep your beer cold for like 8 hours. I mean, with no questions asked.
So it doesn't need to be plugged in to actually use the CO2 and all that stuff. Like
no, the CO2, all that function.
That's a game changer.
So that all takes place with the CO2 cartridge. You get a 20-ounce CO2 that fits in each unit, and basically that will last for about 50. I want to say pours, but I think it's more than that. I think the guy that we talked to said it was upwards of 60. So he actually had 5 or 6 growlers that he could exchange and still use the same CO2. That same tank you can fill up for like $5 at any CO2 refillery place in town, which is pretty awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
No, you literally just you like a computer. You pull the plug out of it, you set it in your trunk, you drive to the tailgate, and then you've got brewery fresh beer, 64 ounces, man. Like that's 10 or 11, 12 beers. You can get out of that, but you throw an extra growler in the cooler, right? And when that one's empty, you pull out that growler, and boom, man, now you've got like a 24 pack, and it's cold, and it's refrigerated, and it's brewery fresh, and it has the CO2. So it's an amazing system.
And at that point, you better have a TV set up because you are not making it inside that game.
not if you kill like a whole case of beer. I mean, I don't know, but
that's awesome.
But again, So again, that is you can get your very own SYNEK for $2.99, which is a hell of a deal. Go to www.synek. That's SYNEK.beer, BEER, and enter the promo code Brewmasters.Club at checkout after you put your growler adapter, your bronze model in there, everything that you wanted to get out of it. And then you get one for $100 off. So it's a pretty good deal. So
cool.
That's all I have to say about that. Lost Man, you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm also hoping that .beers really take off and they just start replacing .orgs. That'd be cool.
Well, I don't know if they'll replace .orgs. I mean, they're very different corporate structure, if you will.
What happens if everything's just dot and then what it is, and then we just get real general with everything like .car?
Well, you should actually
like .louse, man.
you should talk to the good folks at GoDaddy because they're the ones that are kind of leading the way with the ICANN system, which is the one that kind of organizes all the dots, whatever. We have .beer, .club, which is the Brewmasters Club. We have .org, of course. I think like teacher, .stop, whatever you want. So there's a whole lot of domains out there, but that's an ad for GoDaddy, and we're not doing that right now.
What happens if I launch a website called .org.beer.com?
That's fine. Well, wait. Now it's a little complicated.
See, that's where I got you. The second dot.
Okay. Well, why don't you look it up with our friends at GoDaddy? Because I have no idea how the hell to answer that.
Okay.
We are the Brewmasters Club. We are the official podcast of the Brewmasters Club. Craft Brews, Geek News. Let's get into what we are drinking. What are we going to drink? I have a fan favorite. Thanks to everybody that tweeted in with that. Lost Man has had it in the past. I would like someone else to lead. Lost, Ryan, I heard you cracking something. All right, go for it, buddy.
So I've actually never had this, and I come into this actually unresearched. I didn't even look it up on Beer Advocate or anything like that to find out what other people think. This is called the Killer Whale, and it's the cream ale out of Jacksonville, Florida, out of Bold City Brewery.
Yep. The can is amazing. That cartoon whale is awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was like, yeah, that's kind of neat, but I'm not really into cream ale, so I figured I'd give it a shot, and here it is. It's creamy, and it's an ale. So
the thing I've noticed about like typical
very much. Wait, real quick, it's very much along the same lines of I hate to say it, but I mean, because it's definitely more refreshing tasting, but it's very much along the same lines of like a Mich Ultra or Miller Lite.
Cream ale.
No other way to describe it.
Yeah, the cream ales add like a tiny, like almost vanilla-ish finish to it, but really, they're heavy beers. They are heavy beers. They're by no means a light beer like a Mich Ultra.
No. But I was just saying along the same flavor profile.
Yeah. There's just really it finishes light and kind of vanilla-y, but there's not a lot to them.
Yeah, I could actually go back for this. Like, if I was just out and wanted to stay nice and light, this is actually really good. I should have bought 2 cans.
I was at the Lowry Parkade tonight, which is a retro arcade kind of bar that has 34 local taps, which is also freaking amazing. But I had a couple cream ales out there, and like that's what I like about them. Like the cream ales, they drink very light, they taste very like drinkable. You know what I mean? You could have a couple of those. I wouldn't take it to the beach. I wouldn't have it at a bonfire. Did you blow that directly into the microphone?
Yeah.
Oh, I meant to go the other way.
Yeah, I saw that though. Maybe it's the camera that just made it look the other way. But nope.
Sorry, guys.
Didn't.
Anyways, the cream ales, they're good for like what I would describe as like cold, jacuzzi nights. Like I love having like those make me remind me of being at the top of the ski hill when I'm snowboarding or whatever. Like when I'm out there in the cold, sitting in a jacuzzi throwing snowballs. I mean, that's when I reach for the cream ales because they're good. They're just not my necessarily cup of tea.
They always remind me of snowboarding down a hill in a jacuzzi.
Oh yeah, how many times have you done that?
There's only one time, but that's all it takes.
That's all you need, huh?
To develop a new sport, jacuzzi boarding.
Jacuzzi boarding.
We call it coozing.
Oh, Jesus. Of course. Of course he has one.
It finishes really. I got to tell you though, this one finishes really dry. Is that normal for cream ale?
Imagine a cream soda, right? What does a cream soda leave you with? You've got vanilla notes in the back of your tongue, and then it leaves you with kind of just a little bit of sweetness. That's really all it is.
So is that what makes it considered a cream ale? Is just the vanilla then, or I mean, is there like a different? Because I don't know. I've never had a cream ale such as this. I've never brewed one, so what makes it? What I want to know.
That's a fantastic question. I really don't even know the answer to that because, like you, I've not brewed a cream ale. I've not really, delved into the background of it. Ross, I think you have some insight on this.
It's probably because they add milk at some point.
I don't know if they would add milk to beer, though. I mean,
why not?
Maybe some natural sugars they could ferment, but
they don't add milk to beer.
How much sugar is in milk?
Maybe they add cream.
I mean,
nope. That's definitely
this isn't Starbucks, Klaus. This is not.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Get your coconut cream splash here.
No, I can definitively tell you why it's called a cream ale. Just because I Googled it.
I mean, the fact that it's called a killer whale, I'm wondering what kind of. Never mind. I won't even say it. Never mind. I was going more negative.
Were you? Go ahead. Explain. Elaborate, please. Go ahead.
No, I don't want to.
All right. Well,
it's not podcast worthy at that point.
Okay. Well, so before we go down that,
let's move on.
No. Okay. So before we go down that route, let me just explain the description that I have for cream ales. Basically, they're an American light lager, as similar to what you said, like Miller or Mick Ultra, whatever those light beers are. But these are ales that are finished with a lager yeast or a lager beer mixed in. Adjuncts like corn and rice are used to lighten the body, and it's not uncommon for small brewers to make cream ales because pale ales like straw, they use straw in pale gold color, so they have a low hop bittering, and they keep it very a light hop aroma. So some micros are given the style of this kind of cream ale, but they're very well carbonated, and they're just kind of lighter beers.
Yeah.
So a lot of them don't even taste like that vanilla finish. I've had a few that are really heavy with it, but those are mostly like they taste more like a lighter vanilla porter than they do like a cream ale. So I don't know, but I do like them. I like exploring those because every one of those, what I've noticed, are a little bit different.
Nice.
So,
well, next time you see it, pick up the Bold City Brewery Killer Whale Ale.
I just like it because it's a little killer whale with like an inner tube, and it's cool.
Yeah.
And like that's
awesome.
a cool. I think
it's got a little tattoo that says "Mom" on it with a heart and
on his arm, on his little clipper. It's cool. I think that's one of the coolest cream ales that I've had. So good on you for that. Last man, are you ready to tell us what you got, or you want me to go?
Sure. No, I got one. What I have isn't. I don't know if it's been mentioned. Actually, I had to think pretty long and hard about it, but it should have been mentioned at this point. I have the Bell's Oberon.
What? Holy wait, shit! Have we not talked about Oberon? Because I've been drinking Oberon since before this podcast was.
We have not
twinkle in my eye.
I don't think we have. I really had to think about it, and I was like,
"Good on you, Lausman."
Thanks.
That was my first non-traditional beer, by the way, back in 2010.
That was my first, if you quote unquote non-traditional, but that was our good buddy Chet, man, from Kalamazoo, Kazoo. That's where Oberon comes from. Is from the Kalamazoo brewery. So, man, he got me onto that too because Oberon, unlike Blue Moon and stuff, has like a 5.7 or like a 6er almost percentage alcohol wise, and it is hands down better than Shock Top, better than Blue Moon, better than a lot of those wheats that you get out there. So go ahead, man. I'm sorry, I don't mean to capitalize on that, but Oberon, wonderful beer.
Yeah.
Nice surprise.
I feel like it's. Well, thank you.
Job.
I feel like it's been there the whole time, but we just never talked about it.
That's absolutely accurate.
Yeah, it's a great American wheat ale. I like it because it's got a little bit of a spice to it, which is kind of nice. I always like to get. Oh yeah, that happened. I always like weird stuff, and ever since I tried that jalapeno beer, I've kind of wanted to go back to spicy beers. But there's just enough of it to not get too weird. So really cool, actually. And I was really kind of, not gonna lie, I was almost not in the mood for it because I worked in the sun all day way too hard, and I'm a ginger, so I just shouldn't be there anyways. But So I was like, great. I was like, after a long, hot day, I'll just come home to a wheat. And I was like, that's a right shit idea. But actually, it was way more tasty than I thought it'd be, and it was a little bit more lighter than I thought it would be. So I think the word wheat just kind of scares me sometimes because I don't want like a bowl of Cheerios or something like that. It'll get me all down. Like I just want to be like nice and light right now.
But honestly, for most of the wheats that are out there, have you ever had one that really, like a wheat beer specifically, that it's like weighed you down? Because I think wheat gets a bad rap for that specific like reason. Like I think that a lot of people have the same mentality when you're like, oh, wheat beers, they're gonna be thick, they're gonna be heavy, it seems like chewing oatmeal or whatever, but it's really not. I mean, wheat beers are simply, all they are defined as is they use a different adjuncts, they use a different extra ingredient, which is the wheat, and that creates that golden haze and whatnot. But it never, at least the commercially brewed ones, like do not weigh you down. It's not like you're actually ingesting that thickness that is the clarity and color of it. You really just, it's a crisp, it's a tart kind of flavor to it, usually backed by citrus or coriander or something. It's very refreshing. Like you said at the beach, it's very refreshing.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound like it. It sounds like I'm just going to be drinking oat soup or something like that.
Yep.
Next, you'll have to try the gluten-free option.
Oh,
well, that would not, there's no... That was a joke, right?
I hope so.
No.
I really hope so.
Wheat is gluten. Gluten is wheat. You can't have gluten-free wheat beer.
That was the joke.
Okay. Well, that's why I asked.
No, the option of beer, not the wheat part. It just
well, a gluten-free joke.
Only the jokes to louse.
Yeah, just do that. He'll fuck him up for all of us.
I'm laughing like him now. Come on, Laos, fuck one up for me so I don't feel as bad.
Nah, I'm all right for right now.
Tell Donnie to cut it out, like when he edits.
Oh, there's number 2, man. He's really going. So, I brought an old favorite from Laos's cabinet, at least. I got the old
the hell
tankard.
is that?
Yeah, this is the old tankard.
Old tankard.
And honestly, I was not going to get this, but you talked about it last the one time that you had. Old tankard is from Pabst Blue Ribbon, and this is what sold me just because of the marketing, and I can strictly be a patsy for it. They just said open beer, pour in tanker, consume. I was like, okay, that's fine. I was like, that's what I feel like doing. This was they had 4-packs on sale at the local store, and I was like, you know what? Laos talked about it one time. I've never had it. Apparently, it's the 1937 Brewers log recipe. So this, what their whole gimmick is that this is Pabst again, Pabst Blue Ribbon. A craft beer is not a new idea. In fact, it's over 80 years old. In 1935, the first year beer was ever packaged in cans, Pabst introduced the Old Tankard Ale and its proprietary keg-lined Tapa can to retain its freshness. Essentially, they say there's three rules of this: open can, pour into tankard, hoist with friends. This was 1930, so I don't know how many tankards were actually out there floating around in functionality and real use, but it doesn't smell that great. It really doesn't. It smells like a malt beer. Like it just smells a little malty, a little like too much. Foam is okay, color is decent. It looks like an amber, but it doesn't anywhere say it is on there. It's really just, I think what it's meant to be is an old school recipe for an old school beer, and that's kind of how it tastes. So again, this is a product of Pabst Blue Ribbon, so take it as you wish. But I really wanted to try it because I think episode 8, 9, 10, something like that, Laos, you had pulled it out of the fridge or whatever, and I've never tried one. So thanks for that.
Neutral feeling.
Yeah. We are going to, if you guys don't have anything else on that, we're going to move on to our actual news, the meat and potatoes of this barley soup that we have called a podcast.
Oh, Lord.
Essentially,
I'm already full.
I hope you guys are stuck in traffic listening to this podcast because it's a doozy.
No, it's not. It's not going to be long. We are going
I know.
We're going to skim through because what I did was there's a lot to talk about on this. The first thing that I thought was very interesting was the new Stone beer, because they released a new beer. I think it was like literally 3 days ago, which was called the Ghost Hammer IPA, and this will be available in the next few. I think it starts in June, which is today, June 1st, and it will actually be an IPA made out of Belma hops, Centennial, and Magnum, available in 12-ounce cans, and it is debuting in June 2017. It's a 6.7% ABV, And the Hoppy Mad scientists at Stone Brewing made their Indian Pale Ale a little bit more spicy. So the overnight crew was really responsible for this, as in they tested some things and found out by throwing all these 4 different very unique hops together, they can make a truly unique beer. And that's what kind of came out of the Ghost Hammer. So I'm all about it. I love IPAs. I'm actually onto a bit of a sour Belgian still kick. But this beer will be very unique, and if you can get it at the brewery right now, that's great. If not, just hang tight, because they'll be able to buy it in stores here, coming late June. So I think it's a cool thing. I love Stone. I'm sorry their hotel kind of fell through for the moment, or is at least on hold. But this beer has coriander, grains of paradise, and citrus. So I mean, it's gonna be spicy, it's gonna be citrusy, but I'm all about that.
Yeah,
you
I like
guys?
the name.
It sounds like a great beer, and Magnum hops. I mean, those are very high in alpha acid. So I mean, it's going to be it sounds like it's going to be a great beer. So
why does the alpha acid make any difference, Ryan?
Well, it's like the bittering. It's
okay.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's a late stage hop that adds that bitter.
So in perspective, like I just brewed. I've got a stout going right now, and the last 15 minutes I dropped in a hop that only has an alpha acid of like 4.4. So it's much lower than, say, a Magnum. No, so anything when you get like 10, 11, 12, I mean, that's what you're using when you're doing an IPA, because they're much higher. You wouldn't use something like that in a porter or a stout, because you're not you do taste some hops, but it's not supposed to be higher up on the IBU. So it's all one and the same.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
I like it, man. I just love that you're now able to, like, Lars, listen to this man. He's like literally talking about different hop varieties for beers, and like has the knowledge to talk about it. So I think it's a great note. What Ryan, again, as I always grandstand, man, you're an example of what happens with the craft beer industry. You get to know it, you get to learn it, and you enjoy talking about it. And so it's awesome, man. I'm glad that you can recognize how I know Centennials are the very like citrusy ones. I know that for a fact. But the Magnums, that add that flavor for the bittering is certainly unique. So
yeah, no, it's, I mean, yeah, you just, the more you brew, the more you do, I guess.
Oh, come on. Where's Los? Wait, we got to give him a second there. Who's drinking? And fresh take. Go ahead, Los. Go for it.
That was good. But wait, you want me to do that? That was his.
I'm back in the winner's circle here.
Yeah, that was good. The more you brew, the more you do. That's cool. It's got a good.
He's searching. He's
Undertone.
searching right now. He's searching for something. He can't. He's spinning these plates. They're going like this. He's spinning plates.
It's got a good undertone to it.
And we're done. And we're moving on. So, Ryan actually, the man of the hour here, sent an article over a couple days ago about a new brewery. Well, the new brewery fight, I guess, from the state of Texas. That is joining many counties, states, whatever you want to say, regions, I guess, they're talking about this 3-tiered system. This 3-tiered system, which is very controversial in terms of, well, really, it breaks down to a couple of things. Educated folks in the craft beer industry, and beer drinkers, and distributors, and brewers. So there's like 4 different components to this, because not everybody that drinks a beer really knows about what's going on behind the scenes. Then those who do drink a beer may feel jaded or in one way or another lean towards one side or the other. Then you have the distributors, if I can remember this pie chart that I'm making here. Then you have the distributors who have one certain angle of it. Then you have the brewers who also have their own certain opinion and arcs from it. So what we did, and what Ryan was alluding to in the beginning of this, is that we kind of laid out a ton. I got history here. We have what led up to the system. We have the recent article. We have pros and cons as to this 3-tiered system. But first, let's break it down. Ryan, I don't know if you want to take this. I can certainly do it if you want to. But what is this thing called the 3-tiered system?
Well, brewer, distributor, consumer. Is that
correct?
Basically,
yeah, that's correct.
The 3 tiers of everything. So it's, how does the brewery get it to the consumer? And that is through the distributor.
Yep.
Exactly.
So So the reason this whole thing started, and it's really actually a hot topic right now because there's so many breweries that are being either bought up by larger breweries or that are being distributed by larger or smaller breweries and then not sold in areas or sold in areas primarily because this agreement is in place. So let's back up a bit.
It's all taking place inside of a hot topic.
Nope, not at all.
Okay. All right.
It's literally just a hot topic.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. So backing all the way up to 1933, basically the 18th Amendment was repealed by the 21st, which allowed for alcohol sales to come back into function. So at that point, all states individually were creating environments in which different distribution of their alcohol was allowed. Essentially, it was really, Al Capone, you think with gangsters and things like that, it was really geared towards liquor sales. Well, with liquor comes beer, comes wine, comes everything else. So essentially, the U.S. government decided that they could break off, different states and to let them do whatever they want to with their alcohol. Some states said, well, listen, like Utah and Colorado, say, hey, we appreciate alcohol and that's great, but you can only make a beer that is 3.5 or 3.2. It's 3.2, I believe, law in Utah and Colorado, which I don't think is there anymore. But in Utah, maybe, where you can only have a beer that's limited in alcohol because X, Y, Z. So all these different states were able to break into each and all's like kind of rules and whatever they wanted to. But essentially, like Ryan mentioned, that the three-tiered system is the breweries make the beer. They put the beer into containers to be sold. The distributors buy the beer from the breweries. Then the distributors actually resell it to gas stations, bars, restaurants, wherever it may be. Then you buy, as the consumer, you buy the beer from the brewery, from the bar, from the restaurant, whatever it may be. So essentially, when you go into a brewery, and you think of like with a three-tiered system, you see where the beer is made, and the beer is made, and then it's shipped off by kegs, and the kegs are bought by the distributor. Then the distributor sells that keg back to the brewery. The brewery sits there, puts it in their fridge, and sells each individual pint to you. In essence, from the outside, again, now this goes back to the 4 blocks here, the consumer thinks, well, this is kind of crazy, right? If Ryan's brewery brewed it and it was brewed right there, then I should be able to buy it right here, and that's it. Because there's nothing better than fresh beer. But the three-tiered system has pros and cons. So Ryan, you sent me the article from this example in Dallas, Texas. I'd love for you to dive into this a little bit, and then let's go ahead and like cut through the fat here. This is something that we don't normally do. We don't normally dive into all of these facts and really get into the nitty gritty. But I thought because it's so timely and there's so many people talking about it that like this is really a good example for us to kind of dive into it and see, what humor, what fun, what fact we can pull out of this. And Lost Man, I'm looking at you, bro.
Is there something on my face?
No.
Oh, that's it. I thought there was no comma. There was no comma.
In a nutshell, the this article came from Texas, and it was talking about their new beer bill and how it could end up costing people from Texas money. But it's HB 3287, and basically it's putting restrictions on these craft beer breweries that end up brewing 225,000 barrels of beer annually, and it's forcing them to buy back their own beer if they want to sell in their tap room. So if they're growing, which every business grows, every craft beer brewery wants to grow, if they're brewing that much, which is, I think that's relatively low in some counts, but they're being forced to buy back their own beer, and it's not conducive for growth, in my opinion.
And a little bit later, we're going to get into the pros and cons of why this is good or bad. But it's funny because this article came out of Texas, which is one of many things. It happened in Florida, it's happened in Colorado, it's happened in Maine, it's happened in basically every state that there is. There's a discussion about what's going on with the three-tiered system. But it's funny because when I was researching the Texas House Bill 3287 that you mentioned, I found this article here that also had a caveat to that House bill, is that, and this was a while ago, so it wasn't exactly for the same bill, but when the three-tiered system was kind of laid out for Texas as it was previously, beside this year, there were exceptions that were put in there. And there's an article from Tasting Beer by Randy Mosher, and he basically described that there was an exemption set up by Texas's three-tiered system to allow for marine mammal attractions to sell the beer without a distributor. Essentially, it was literally targeting SeaWorld in 2009, who was at the time owned by Anheuser-Busch. Like so like these three-tiered systems are great and stuff, but they're right there because there's corruption that's passed through this. And one of our good friends and good sponsors and a big supporter of the podcast is JJ Taylor. Now, I'm not saying that distributors are nasty. I'm saying that there are ways to exploit this, and there are ways to benefit this for not only the consumer, but for the distributor, for the average beer drinker, and for the brewery. So there's a lot of complexity behind this. But this is an example of how a three-tiered system can really turn sour. I'll leave you on that one.
See how it goes.
See how it goes.
I think I got this right.
No, I mean it's frustrating to the sense because you obviously can't keep that much beer on hand, and distributors can't keep that much beer in hand. Maybe what could be looked at is what's the cost of delivering it back to us if we can't keep it on site. I get that, but to charge it in any other fashion is just, I mean, because it's like Ashley. She's a seamstress. She makes clothes. She sells it directly to the consumer, right?
Yep.
Well, if there was an entity, because this is alcohol, I feel like there's this entity overseeing everything and pickpocketing, and nothing against
it's
any.
It's called middleman.
Right, the middleman. Well,
yeah.
It's pickpocketing because it's not your craft, and but you want that distributor to distribute your beer, but at the same time not cost you if you're trying to distribute it back to your customers whilst at your own brewery, which it was brewed.
Right.
That is, I think, the biggest kicker in the ass.
Well, so I feel like you had something for this.
Why isn't that called the three-beard system?
Okay, there it goes. Okay, perfect. There's the one. That's what I was looking for. So I want to skip past, because we kind of in discussion talked a lot about that stuff, but so let's hit the pros and cons, because this list was assembled essentially from like 8 different websites, and I did like as much research as I could.
Yeah, you did.
I'd love to be able to list all those, but like literally it's rapid fire here. So there's just some hot points, some highlights. There are pros, and I agree with a lot of these. I mean, this is again the most non-biased I can be here, but essentially the three-tiered system encourages competition, right? Because it's preventing tied houses with empowering, independent distributorships to actually kind of expand their reach and like go a little bit bigger or a little bit, make a better quality product. Because if you don't have a quality product, it won't buy it, right? So big distributor comes in to you, Ryan, and says, "Hey, Ryan, love your brewery. This is great. Oh, your first beer is great. Your second beer is great. Your third beer is shit." You'll stop making that beer. They'll make a better beer that is test marketed, that is sold, and people buy. Good for business, right? So there's one. The other pro is a third tier system encourages fair and open marketplace, as in think about a third tier, so a distributor, as the stock market. Again, good beers rise, bad beers fall, right? And that's good because it weeds out shitty breweries, and it gives the consumer, you, me, Laos, more products to choose from. Not only does it do that, but it opens up distribution, and it allows that beer to move efficiently. So like, you're in Miami, right? And you're drinking the Trappist Ale, which you love, but you live in Tallahassee, right? So like, you want to drink that same beer up there. If there's not a statewide distributor that will get you that beer, then guess what? You will not be able to drink that Miami Trappist that you love so much in Tallahassee. And I understand that. Or say you're in Colorado, or you're in New York or Michigan or wherever you may be. So like, I get it. Distributors that can help that kind of power are great. And that's what a three-tiered system does do well.
That's exactly the point I just had. It's when you need to sell. Well, let's say you're completely out at your own brewery. It's when you need to sell it to the consumer. You have to buy it back. It's a double tax.
Sure. Well, I don't.
That's the only thing I think people are pissed about.
Is a double tax? I don't understand that. So I can't even speak to that, because I do not know that there's a double tax imposed on that. Like, I don't know if you're the brewery making the beer and you supply it to the supplier and they don't give you any kind of discount to buy it back.
Well,
I don't know what that is.
So to kind of bring in a conversation that I have with a local brewery, I don't want to say their name because they're a great brewery. I go there all the time, and we can actually set up an interview with him. He said that he would talk about everything. They formulated their own distribution company for this purpose, because his wife runs it, because they can distribute. They're on tap at ABC Liquor. They're on tap at World of Beer, and they have all these things going for them without using a major distribution company, without paying those sort of fees, if you will, and they kind of keep it not in-house, because there's still things that they have to pay for to run the services, but they're doing it at their own expense without being subjected to what a distribution company has them do. The other side to that is that the distribution companies will take their beer, not take it, but take it to their warehouse.
They
and
purchase
then it's
it.
Up to the, well, they purchase it, but it's up to the brewery at that point to go out and sell accounts like at different restaurants and different bars to get their beer distributed into it. Whereas if you take a nationally known beer like Budweiser or Miller or something like that, have accounts set up for. So they don't have to go out.
So let's get into that with the cons. Laos, thoughts?
I think there's another party that would be quite upset with that, is the guy who has to pick up the kegs and put them in the truck and then pick them back up and be like, I don't know why I'm doing that, and put them back on a two-wheel dolly.
This guy's just thinking about his whole life. Yeah, he's thinking about his whole life. He's like, God damn it, I just picked this beer up here. Why not drop back off here? This is fucked up.
Does he have to leave the parking lot? Or does he
that's a great perspective.
These are the questions. I mean,
so the last pro I have before we totally dive into the cons.
Sorry.
No, it's good. No, it's good. It's good because a lot of your points are relevant. You'll see that here as we talk about the cons, to this. But the end of the all, and there's you can ask every single brewery, you can ask every single distributor, you can ask every consumer or politician or whoever the lobbyists are. There is without a doubt, no doubt at all, that the third tier system is absolutely the cheapest way to do it. Because Ryan's Brewery, that makes 50 gallons a year or whatever it may be, you would never get your cans outside of a 10-mile radius without a distributor. And that is a ironclad fact. You can lock that up, put it in the Bible and stuff in the drawer. I mean, that is a fact. You as an independent brewer who is emerging like a Craft Life or an In the Loop or a Big Storm at one point could never get to where they are now without a distributor. So what does that mean? Well, you have to sell your goddamn beer to a distributor to buy it back, to serve it at your tap room. That is just how it would happen, how it could happen, and it's the only way it can happen without short of making your own distributorship. But that's great. But there's a bunch of cons with that because a small distributor can't get the same reach as a Pepin or a large nationwide distributor can get, and that is a fact.
But totally not disagreeing with that. When it needs to come back to your brewery, mark it off. Like, just make it a clean sweep. Like, that's.
I get that. Well, they have
that's
pricing
the.
models,
I think.
But you're not
that's
privy
the only
to that.
thing.
But you don't understand. Yeah. You don't know that. I don't know that. That is not.
Well,
that's not our negotiation. That's between the brewery, the distributor, and whoever they distribute to. So that is conversation that we cannot even touch on because we don't understand.
No, but that's, I think, what the point of the article is. At least that's why people would be mad because, again, it's not distribution companies that are the problem. It's the selling it back to the brewery, and that's what it says here. Craft breweries in Texas and everything, like Texans, having to pay more to drink. If the brewery has to up their charges or compensate for buying their beer back, or even if there's a tax on it at buying their beer back, that is, I think, the issue with the three-tier system without the other side of things where you have to go out and pay people to sign up accounts to get your beer into their restaurants. That's the problem.
Lost man, rebuttal?
On a serious note for just a quick second, do they
Because I'm not serious.
Well, not too often. I'm not. But do they have to actually pay like full price, or do they just go, it's like $4, dude? It's for like a keg. It's cool.
Well, that's what I don't know, and that's again I'm going off of the facts and the statistics and all the stuff that we can find. But what I don't know is what I can't talk about. So like, I would love to be
that's what we need to know.
Yeah, and that's what we need to do. So maybe there's a buddy of this brewery that wants to talk to us about it. Please, if you want to shed some light on this, if you want to be featured and you would love for us to talk about you, we would love to do so. Hashtag Brewmasters.Club cast on Twitter, Instagram, or simply just email us at info@Brewmasters.Club. Let us know what's going on. We have a hotline you can call in. We'd love to interview to talk about this because, again, this has been such a hot button issue that's came up in recent days and weeks and months. I would love to know from an insider perspective exactly what goes on because I'm sure there's peaks and valleys, but we've got to get on to the cons here, bro, so we can keep going.
I thought I mentioned a couple. Sorry.
We're not even there yet. Lost Man, you got anything?
Are we keep proing? That was my thing.
Okay. Well, so
we're only a third way down the notes, Donnie.
I'm going to run through these real fast. So essentially, and we touched on a couple of these, Ryan, specifically you did in your last little discussion there. Cons. So the bad part is that new breweries find it difficult to land a distributor contract. I get that. If you think about it here in Tampa Bay, there's one big fish, there's a secondary, there's a tertiary, right? Besides that, it's mom and pops that do it. So mom and pops don't have the same fucking swagger, walking into a Circle K or a Walmart or a liquor store, wherever it may be, that a big dog would. So there's the challenge there, right? And if you allow this three-tiered system where maybe this one guy can own most of it and say the largest, beer company in the world, it might be a challenge for Ryan's Brewery with their 50,000 gallons a year to get on board with that. It's simply common sense that might be difficult.
I just imagine a really cool couple like an older couple walking into a Circle K.
I mean,
we'd be like lots of swagger, and then it's like, man, come on, man, you want my beer? What's wrong with you?
I mean, at that point though, like Donnie, I mean, I'm not disappointed. Like let's be honest here. Tim from Craft Life makes great beer, but we've seen his production setup. We've seen how everything's growing at this point. His pumpkin beer is phenomenal. Maybe that could be distributed one day. That would be the one that I would take, and maybe even the Christmas ale. But if you're just beginning and you want to distribute, that's fine. But people have to have a need for it. Like that's okay. That's competition. So I don't think that's really a negative. They're not looking to sign you up right away.
So Ryan,
I think you have to kind of build that in. I know that's a negative twist to it, but
no, I'm telling you, that's just the number one.
Honest.
That's the number one con. But have you ever bought a Craft Life beer out of a can or a bottle at any place ever?
Well, no, but right. But eventually, if people were going there daily to buy the pumpkin ale or to buy the Christmas beer that we had, which was pretty rad, at that point, a distributor should come in and say, "Hey, this beer is fantastic. Can you brew thousands of gallons of it, and we'll distribute it for you?"
All right.
But that's that one beer. That's why. Wait. Big Storm has so many beers on tap, but every time I go to the store, there's like 3, maybe 4 beers that I can buy a 6-pack of.
Flagship beers, that's what they're called.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So I think that you're getting confused with a negative as to a positive, because we're speaking the same language. Well, your point is exactly what I just said. It's difficult for new breweries to get in there.
But they've got to have the beer that keeps people coming back to their brewery first. Yeah, that's competition. That's fine.
The problem is that they can't compete with the larger guys. That's what makes this a problem. I'm saying me and you were proponing the same thing.
If you
will.
But
no, the con is against the 3-tier system, which we are saying the same thing.
Oh, well then fuck.
All right. Anyways, the next one is that this can result in higher prices to the consumer. Ryan, do you have any similar yet opposing views that you want to reflect on this one?
Paralleling.
Nope, they're good. You agree?
What was the question?
There's no question. That this can result in higher prices to the end consumer and a less profit for the producers. We agree that you should go on a rant for 5 minutes and disagree with your agreement. Is that what you're saying?
I guess so.
Okay. I think I'm confusing Ryan. Yep. I'm not trying to, buddy. All right.
I thought we were on the con side of things, and I was like, I agree with that. So then I had to find a way to disagree with that.
No, they're all negatives. They're all negatives. The other point is that beer is generally consumed best fresh. We all know that one, because the longer it takes to get to the end consumer, as in I bottle it, I keg it, I sell it, I buy it back, I sell it again to the consumer, the more it hurts the beer, especially when you're talking about a Craft Life or a smaller brewing facility that does not maybe have pasteurization or canning or those things, because pasteurization is the only thing that keeps your beer, the beer that you're drinking now, the beer lots that you're drinking now, the beer that I'm drinking now, shelf life good enough to last actually through to when you're actually going to grab it and buy it off the shelf of Publix, whoever, and actually consume it. So totally agree with that. That's a con. The longer it takes to get into my hand, the bigger problem it is for me.
Tell me about it.
Moving on, retailers make decisions based on their relationships with distributors, which can absolutely skew the free market of beer sale, which again, Ryan, lends to your point. hey, I've got this real good in with these guys, and they only sell domestic products. So if I'm not a big shelf brewery, then I'm not going to get shelf space. That's exactly what happens, and that will fuck everybody that wants to be a small brewer. States can make their own laws, which is great, but states cannot usually adapt their laws to one or two or small breweries and their stakes. It's lobbying. It's thousands and millions of dollars. Trying to get, hey, well, we want the 3-tiered system to have this kind of approach, and that would take the Craft Lights or the Big Swims or whoever to really pony up to get those lobbyists in there. Now, not only you're not worried about the beer or the product or the consumer, but you're strictly just putting funding against getting politicians to make a decision that is different from what you wanted, which is messed up. It's very messed up. A few more just to break this out. It's an archaic system. So again, I referenced 1933 when Prohibition broke. This is kind of what came out of that, and it's been that way ever since. And not that the states or the distributors have anything to do with it. I think the distributors have a great place to be because, again, it lends to cheaper craft beer for everyone, cheaper distribution for all breweries, and that's great because I want to enjoy the beer that I like no matter where I am, and distributors let that happen. But it is nearly impossible to acquire adequate mindshare with the distributor when your brand represents such a small profit. So if you are a contributor to X distributor and you contribute 0.1% of their sales, you think they really care about where Ryan's Brewery beer is going to be? They simply don't. Does your brewery
sucks by the sound of it?
It really doesn't. But I'm saying, if you imagine being a small brewery, like say Craft Life, why do you think you haven't had a can of their beer or a bottle of their beer somewhere else? This system is why. Tim's brewery is great, and he's doing festivals, and he's out there meeting people and making friends, and every single person that meets him or his product fall in love with him. And I don't say that lightly. There are a lot of breweries I've met, and I've met the brewers and I've met the owners. Not all of them have the same charisma, taste, flavor, creativity of a Marker 48 or a Craft Life Brewing. But those who do have to participate in this game. And it shouldn't be mandated. It shouldn't be the hand of God that says you have to go through X and then sell it to Y just to profit from Z. It doesn't make sense. But
I'm with you.
That's the way it is. And I see the pros and cons. So closing arguments. Go ahead, Ryan.
Nah.
You're in?
Yeah, I'm in.
I'm sure Lost Man has some important stats. Go for it.
Well, I think it's hogwash.
Oh, that dog of mine.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so I know that, like I said, I knew this was going to be a very much a good discussion, but I knew it was going to be a long one. So that's it. That's it for the beer news. But I will leave the listeners out there with just a couple final things here. I would love to know thoughts. How does this affect DUIs? How does this affect cost of beers? How does this affect availability of beers by the county, by the state, by the region? I mean, how does distribution at the third tier level really affect you as a consumer? What is your opinion of it? Please use the hashtag on Twitter. It's hashtag Brewmasters.Club cast, or simply reach out to @Brewboy813.
That's right.
At Mr. Lousman, at Brewmasters.Club on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Let us know your thoughts. Before we end this evening, we're going to run through a few notes here that we have from the geeky side, and this will be our last kind of hoorah. I first came across this because everybody's talking about this. Unless you guys had anything else closing out the beer, anything?
No, I remixed the remix. I'm good. Yeah.
All right. So we're moving on to what everybody's been talking about, which is the Far Cry 5 debut trailer. And Lost Man actually had the privilege of watching this earlier today. I watched it a few days ago. Ryan watched it as well. Basically, this is a open world kind of concept that Ubisoft dropped on everybody after their 1, 2, 3, 4 franchise game that they've had, with some peaks and valleys. People like different parts of what they brought, different parts of what they didn't have. There was some continuity where 3 and 4 were pretty similar. They exchanged bad guy X for bad guy Y, and it was kind of a different mix of what's going on. They were all essentially isolated. We played Just Cause, very similar, where you're just causing a ruckus. There's a mercenary, there's an ex-FBI guy, whatever it may be. This new game, Far Cry 5, which is not out yet, but they simply released a trailer, I think 2 days ago, has set, at least the United States, the gamer culture for the USA on fire because there are news articles, there are people comparing it to Trump philosophies and presidential tactics. Lost Man, did you play any of the Far Cries prior to this one? Because I really haven't.
I dabbled minimally because it was a PlayStation title.
Which we never had. We were Xbox bros for the longest time.
Exactly. But,
up until this podcast.
Yeah, well. Yeah, no, I've played it very minimally. I've kind of followed it probably more with like trailers, and then I also had the I dabbled a little bit in some of the 4 and I think 3, and they were fun. I just didn't sort of pan out. Like I didn't spend like 40 or 50 hours on the game, which is I think what it calls for these days. Maybe a little under.
So let me just break it down quickly in terms of like what the story is and what's going on. But the story of Far Cry 5 takes place in Montana. It's basically a unique and very different setting. So if you can imagine, if you're a gamer out there and you've played Red Dead Redemption or you've played Red Dead, any of the games there, that they kind of take place, out in the Old West, and things are, on horseback, and it's open world. So you're climbing, valleys and peaks and mountains and different stuff and shooting, hunting and things like that. Well, this game takes place in present day. And essentially the plot is that you're this BFE town in Montana that, that has been taken over essentially by religious cultist fanatics. And so what that means is that, they've taken kind of Christianity and expanded upon it from a different perspective, where this gentleman in yellow shaded sunglasses feels that he is the new god and people need to follow him. And so all of his followers, and it's nothing to the actual people that live there, but it's portrayed as rednecks and different things that, they're apparent of their right to bear arms. They all have them, and they are readily using them to adapt people to their own culture and religion. That's the political piece of it, is that where they Make America Great Again campaign. This is taking some pulls off there and making this section of America religious again. And by doing so, they're again, it's open world. Imagine like Grand Theft Auto, where you're out there, you're killing people, you're murdering, you're doing drug deals and things like that. And this game kind of follows the same thing, where you are, I think, or going to be positioned as a police officer that is here in this town experiencing this uprising of all these religious fanatics from some awkward religion, killing their neighbors if they don't agree. And so how do you combat that? And this is the open world piece where you can climb mountains and go fishing and have a pet dog and, ride a horseback and do all your sorts of stuff. But it sounds nuts. I mean, what do you guys think? It absolutely looks and sounds insane.
I thought it was a movie when I saw that trailer, to be honest with you.
I think it's going to be pretty neat. Yeah, I mean, it's, what's to hate about it, dude? It's got open worldness to it. It's got some freedom in it. It's got just a whole lot of craziness. I do see a lot of Just Cause in there, and I do see a lot of, at the same time, like you said, a whole lot of Red Dead in there. If that's the case, I hope there's just as much horse launching, but that's a whole nother YouTube video where there was a glitch where it would just launch horses randomly into the skyline. Like you'd be on them too, and all of a sudden you go, hey! Hope there's a lot of that. But some neat features to it. I mean, that's what an open world game needs to do to stay relevant these days, is actually have what the other guys didn't, like GTA's first person view and their, and then they're online and stuff like that. And hopefully all those types of, possibilities are there with this game. But I mean, even if they're not, it could still just be an awesome, open world type shooter type, save the day type, maybe save the day kind of situation.
Yeah. Ron, any thoughts on that? I mean, I know you basically saw the trailer. I don't know how many trailers. There's like 8 trailers, and there's a couple character description videos that are out there. But what were your initial thoughts, being from kind of an outside game perspective?
I thought it was a far cry from normalcy, to be honest with you.
I think that's the play on the entire franchise, but go ahead.
that was my clap. I've been thinking about how I'll use that all day long, by the way.
Oh, good for you.
It sounds and looks really interesting, but I think, it's a little different in that sense. It's a little it's very realistic.
Okay. And that's what I would really, so between now and next week, I would love for you to dive a little bit deeper into it, just because you have a different perspective than most of us that report back on this. But I would love to see what you think about that, because there are some odd parallels. And what's happening is that people that aren't gamers, people that aren't I mean, like literally, like the New York Times and stuff are reporting on this and talking about how it's bashing, people that are. It's got these reminiscence of like Christianity, and these other things, which is crazy. A video game should push the envelope and push technology and get people to feel engaged and to feel bizarre and to do things that they won't do. But now, then you look back on the soccer moms 10 years ago that said, well, we're not going to let our kids play GoldenEye because you're shooting up, people and showing blood stains and things like that. But like, we've came a long way from there. But this game, I think, will kind of set the forefront for a lot of different things. Grand Theft Auto has always had this reputation of being this like just, I will never let my kids play this and whatever. And guess what? That only makes your kids want to play it more. They say this is political. They say this is religious. And I think it's a crazy tangent to try, but who knows? If video games aren't innovating, kids won't play them. And when I say kids, I mean, we will not play them. I mean, like that's just how it is. So they have to innovate. They have to make things different. I think this could be the Grand Theft Auto, which is one of the best-selling games of all time, franchise-wise. It could have that same connotation. So I'm all about it. Final thoughts before I run through these highlight details and we cash out.
Hope there are still mastodons.
Don't think there will be. It's in Montana in 2017.
Have you been to Montana?
Are there mastodons in Montana? If there are, please hashtag Brewmasters Mastodons. Brewmasters.
Fantastic.
Oh shit! I just got it.
Brewmasters.
Brewmasters down.
We're gonna get a lot of hits on that one, guys.
We need to stop making them hashtags because, I don't know how people feel about that. All right. Moving on. Essentially, new things here. We've got the beasts, we've got the vehicles, the ATVs, the planes, biplanes. Now you've got machine guns. It is real time. It's current year. For the first time ever, you'll have character customization where you can be a man, a woman, whatever you want to. Choose your race. Change your actual character customization. There'll be an entire game that can be played through the 2-player or single-player mode, which is fantastic. Jesus. If I had GTA with another buddy like you, Lost Man, and we're just forced to play multiplayer mode, on the whole internet, be a lot of fun. Map editor, like previous games, will be back. That's very good. Again, this is made by Ubisoft Montreal, which is out of Canada, of course. Those guys made Far Cry 3, 4, and Primal. So that should be much of the same, but again, totally reinvigorated by this uproar that's happening or this PR stunt that is their controversy. It is coming out for the PS4, the Xbox One, and the PC. Free bonus content is coming to the PS4 version, while other players will have the option to buy it. This game will not be coming to the Nintendo Switch tier. Essentially, it's coming out February 27, 2018. So it's nearly 3/4 of a year away.
Holy shit! Really?
Really, really looking forward to it. I'm telling you, this is a huge deal in words of gaming.
Everything that we watched on the trailers, like, why wouldn't it be coming out this summer? Like,
they talked about Zelda about a year before it came out. So don't act crazy. I would love. Let's see if this gives them time to go on tour, and by the fall time, they'll have demos and they'll have previews and they'll have press events and they'll have all sorts of stuff. They'll release more information. But the last fact I want to leave with you about this, Laos, and you can attest to this because you told me to download this. BioShock Infinite, was based entirely around the forefathers' religion and the patriotism of the worship of those forefathers. So this concept is not new. So just everybody that's listening, you guys included, when you hear people say, well, this is the gamification of Trump's America or whatever it may be, tell them just to shut the hell up because it's been done before. There is nothing about religion and these games and how lawless it can be and the killing and the misleading and all this kind of crap. It's been done in Mastodons. It's been done before. So don't get your knickers in a bunch, right? We are here to play games to innovate. If we are not, we are bored, and we do not play games to be bored. That is what I want to end on. And I don't know what you guys want to end on. Any final thoughts?
Yes. So I don't end on. Are we ending on the subject or ending on the whole?
We're ending on your statement right now.
Ooh. They're actually not going to take Star Wars: The Clone Wars off Netflix.
That's good to know. We weren't going to end right there. I meant just like, oh, that's nice. I thought
good. I still have plenty of time to catch up.
Oh boy. Then I kind of buried the lead on that one.
They have all 6 seasons, right? As of right now,
they have
4?
Everything.
What is it?
And
I don't know how many seasons I'm to, but
think it's about 6. But they have all of them, and they said they're going to get rid of them on March 7th, and it is not March 7th anymore. And a spokesperson said just like 2 or 3 days ago that they're like, yeah, we're just going to keep it going.
Well, it's June 1st, which is a lot farther.
Fuck.
Okay.
But thank you for that spicy news tip. Spicy news tip from Laos. Man, at the news center.
News is I feel uncomfortable how much Donnie's being
The
an asshole.
hurricane has come and gone 3 months later.
Katrina has finally ended.
Oh,
Everyone is back in their homes.
Boys, thank you so much for a great evening. Where can the good people find you? Mr. Rye Guy, please.
Hit me up on Twitter at BrewedBoy813. And I'm also on Instagram now, which I've done like one picture of. So no idea how that works.
He'll keep it coming.
Same name. Same name, by the way. Same name.
BrewedBoy813. Mr. Lausman, where can they find you?
You can find me at Mr. Lausman. Yeah.
Wait, yeah? How many yeahs? How many A's? How many Y's?
Well, there was a comma.
Was
there
there
a comma now? Can they do a comma in hashtags?
I don't think they let
Is
you
it
do that.
YAY apostrophe or not apostrophe exclamation mark? That's what I meant.
It's a whole different statement.
Jesus.
So, yep.
Yeah.
In general, you guys did it perfect. In general, please do hashtag your questions at Brewmasters.Club, and the hashtag Brewmasters.Club cast also works. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at Brewmasters.Club. Please do let us know what's going on if you feel like hanging out or supporting the show by any means. The SYNEK system, purchase one if you'd like to. It's great. It's really a cool thing. We're going to have a video here of me actually using it and talking to friends, getting their opinions about it. But in the meantime, the Amazon link at the bottom of this video or podcast also links to our Amazon affiliate. So if you actually click that link, then buy something regular status-wise, it does not cost you anything different. But yet it will give us a kickback somehow due to wizardry, magic. I'm not quite sure. But we appreciate you. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you listening. Guys, anything else?
We are golden. We'll see you next Thursday.
All right. Speaking of golden, Ryan, the way that we always close out every podcast, our famous catchphrase is...
Cheers.
Hey, well, so our famous catchphrase is...
Bananarama.
That works.
You've been listening to the official podcast of the Brewmasters Club, craft brews and geek news. Grab a beer with the guys and be sure to subscribe to catch additional content. Add this podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. Chat with the guys on Twitter at Brewmasters.Club and Facebook and online at www.brewmasters.club. Cheers!